Hello, and welcome to the future today, where we bash the opportunities of tomorrow up against the harsh realities of today. Today's topic, Bitcoin simplified in 10 minutes. We're going to throw out all the crypto gobbledygook and get to the essence of what is Bitcoin as it matters to you and me as consumers. So, in October 31st, 2008, nearly 15 years ago, a mysterious person released a mysterious group of instructions about how we should communicate with each other online and how we should treat each other. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, yeah, that's because it is. But this mysterious paper was released nearly 15 years ago today, and this is the essence of Bitcoin. But I'm going to put the lore on the side and go straight for what matters and talk about how Bitcoin matters to us. We'll get back to that Satoshi Nakamoto guy. What is Bitcoin? I'm going to simplify it, streamline it into 6 key points. One, it's a private, fair, and sustainable way to track, transfer, and store value. Those are the 6 things: a private, fair, sustainable way to track, transfer, and store value. I'm going to break each one of those down and talk about the innovations that Bitcoin brought to all of those different areas. When you look at it in the big picture, this is basically the whole monetary system digitized. And I'm going to tell you how the founders of Bitcoin, whoever they are, did that. So this is a private network. You become just a string of numbers. You can become anonymous and remain anonymous if you wish to. Your money becomes a string of numbers called a token. Yes, of course, it's encrypted, but this has never been cracked. Bitcoin has never been cracked, and that's where a lot of the value comes from it. It's also fair because tokens, your tokens, can never be destroyed, and the record of when you bought them and when you sold them can never be destroyed. That information will always be there for you. How's it sustainable? Well, all those records of what you bought, those tokens and Bitcoin addresses that are all tied together, those aren't just stored in one place. They can be broken into or stolen or burned down or whatever. No, those records, called a distributed ledger or blockchain, are distributed endlessly, propagated across 1 million or so computers. And so that becomes the perfect way to track transactions. Normally in the past, with typical encryption, the way that you constrain the information is by isolating it, put it in a box in one place. But the ultimate way to protect information is not so much to lock it up, because somebody will always find a key. It's to spread it everywhere, so that anyone can get it with a set of rules applied. And so what Bitcoin innovates on the most is it takes this list of tokens that are owned by Bitcoin addresses, puts them in a file, and propagates that file across the internet. Now, if somebody changes one of those files, then that file gets thrown out, and we go back to the previous version of that file. So it becomes an immutable record of ownership and transactions. And it's really easy to store and transfer. No more waiting for a wire transfer to go through. No more waiting for a check to come in the mail. You don't have to divvy up a gold bar when you want to pay somebody for something or transfer a bunch of heavy coins. No, we're just transmitting very small packets of encrypted code across the internet. And ultimately, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin out there, which means that we can't inflate this by printing more of it. So these are the key elements of Bitcoin. A lot of innovation. It's really the entire monetary system reimagined, like we talked about. And there've been a lot of improvements that have come out of this. No one's ever hacked, and no one's ever cracked privacy in Bitcoin. Blockchain is perhaps its biggest contributor. That's that idea that all the transactions are put in a general ledger, and instead of locking that ledger in a box, they're distributed across the internet where they can never be completely erased or changed without being flagged for being fraudulent. So there's mining, which in itself is a self-sustaining business model for the computers that store the information on the internet. Mining is a way that the computers who are used to conduct transactions can derive compensation from that. And so mining is a self-governing, self-sustaining business model with no business behind it. Really, it's pretty amazing. It's a peer-to-peer transaction. No more needs for the banks in the middle. No more need for the government to get in the way of every transaction. It's a really smart way to manage supply and demand. There will only be so many Bitcoin created on any given period of time, and over time, the number of Bitcoin mined will be diminished over time. So you never have big spikes in supply of Bitcoin. Instead, you can cater to an ever increasing demand by depleting the supply slowly over time. And it's a great store of value. You don't have to ship bricks to people like we talked about. Everything's encrypted strings of information. So why does it matter today? There's so many innovations. Right now, I like to think of it as a digital insurance policy against banks, government, and inflation. These are three things that are confronting us today. The most valuable thing about Bitcoin tomorrow could be completely different, but that's really how people are looking at it today. If you're putting away money for your retirement, you want to have an insurance policy that everything else on your retirement portfolio isn't going to blow up because some bank went under, or because some government decided to print more money, something like that. So let's get to the SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. Like we talked about, Bitcoin's never been cracked. It is the top crypto investment vehicle, nearly $1 trillion in value. The founder's dead, so it's not like he's going to run off and print more money. We think the founder's dead. It's competing with gold as the world's store of value. There's no owner, there's no board. It's not for profit. It's not for profit. It's an institution designed to support consumers. So you don't have to worry about a board trying to suck more profits out of it. And there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Threats could get cracked. Other cryptocurrencies are vastly more efficient. They're innovating a lot quicker than the relatively old Bitcoin tech. Governments don't really like this, and governments could create their own versions of Bitcoin called CBDCs, or central bank deposit digital currencies. Weaknesses: it's too slow for most commercial applications. Other cryptos are better at that. And there's no real leader here to say, hey, we're going to build this or go that way. Instead, Bitcoin tends to just be more like Bitcoin every year. Now, there are opportunities. This could become the de facto fallback on investment portfolios, and that's a huge opportunity. This could become a way to put money away without worrying about inflation diminishing the value of your retirement account. It could be adopted by countries for deposit. It could be adopted by companies for deposits. Tesla has used this as a deposit. Elon Musk's companies deposited their money in Bitcoin, and even Costa Rica uses Bitcoin as their national currency. So that could spread. We could launch an ETF. What is that? It's a fancy way of saying that it would allow Joe investor, Jane investor to put cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin in their retirement plan with very little muss or fuss. It's very complicated right now. So at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a currency? No. A commodity? You can make the argument, but I wouldn't say that either. A store of value? Yeah, but that's not all. It's an antidote for irresponsible monetary policy? Yeah, it's that too, but that's not all. Could it be the first CBDC developed by the NSA? Oh, God, I hope not. I had to get a conspiracy theory in here somewhere. In my mind, the ultimate value of Bitcoin is it's a good story. It's a good story about protecting yourself against poor decisions by banks, by governments about what to do with your money. What's Bitcoin's biggest hack? Is it the blockchain? Is it privacy? Is it any of that? I think it's just a great story. It's a story that a lot of people read and identify with, that really draws from our background, our myths. It draws from our religions, and it's a great story, and that helps sustain the marketing of a technology that really doesn't have a business behind it. I'll give you a case in point. Just last week, There's a story about how Satoshi Nakamoto just posted. Did he come back from the dead? I mean, you just can't make up the religious undertones that apply to Bitcoin. And I really think that that's what sustains the public's fascination. Without any story behind it, is it as interesting? Is it as fascinating? Probably not. Now, maybe that's not what you want. Something really simple, a really simple way to describe Bitcoin. Maybe you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, hey, what do you know about Bitcoin? Well, here it is. Duh. It's like the original crypto, man. And that is Bitcoin simplified in 10 minutes. If you find this analysis interesting, please leave a like, give us a comment, give us a share, and we'll produce more simplified approaches to cryptocurrency and things that are changing every day. Thanks for your time. And that's the future today.